what are the right decisions, or what rights do you really want to prioritize? The second is, who are the ones who should make those decisions, whether it should be government or local level? And the third is, because we're debaters, the effects on discourse, of course, because that's the most important thing. First, a few points of rebuttal. So, we've heard about integrated cities and how it'll be terrible because if 55% of people are religious, then you'll have complete religious, religious laws and nothing else will happen. What is happening in Israel right now? We genuinely don't understand why Israel can decide that there will be no buses on Sabbath, but you're allowed to go out to clubs and things like that. But for some reason, Ra'anana is incapable of that complex thought of things that there might be infighting if you actually force everything you believe on the other 4 or 5%. Every mixed city in Israel is either a place where people prefer to move away and be separate, or if they don't prefer to move away and be separate, it's exactly like we have today. We will have a mixed community with laws that give what both parts want. So we don't understand what the problem with that is. Secondly, they say that we have a problem that the ultra-Orthodox have more and more children and therefore they'll take over. Two answers to that. One is, what is the alternative? If they're having more and more children take over, then you won't have a single city where people can be secular, and we're not sure why that's a good idea. But secondly, we're not sure why this is a bad thing. They will all have many Orthodox cities in which they can live happily, they have the right to do so, and the secular people will have less, because there are less people, but they'll have complete cities in which they can have secular life. We think that is wonderful. Okay. Moving, the rebuttal to And now let's talk about, actually both the minorities part and the segregation part will be in my lectures. So let's talk about that. What are the right decisions or the ones we want to make? Look, opening government and come and say, look, we need to fight for gay rights. We need to fight for these things everywhere. No, however, that is not what they are supporting in this debate. What they are supporting is in the status quo. In the status quo, we are not getting those rights. In the status quo, you do not have a possibility, and everything that has to do with religious law is dictated by the Orthodox communities, not even the conservative communities. That is number one. Number two, no thank you. According to your own analysis, if the Orthodox are going to become stronger and stronger and stronger, will have a bigger majority, that will only go in a bad direction. But what has Dan told you? Dan has told you that not only is this the comparison we need to make, but today's status quo is not even what the oppositions are defending. Because the status quo today is that for the majority of society, we are forcing them to compromise, and for those parts of society that are ultra-Orthodox, we are not forcing them to do anything. Ultra-Orthodox people do not learn core subjects. They block the roads on Sabbath so people cannot privately drive their cars, though they are allowed to do so. They do not go to the military. The problem is that today, what we get is the worst of both worlds. Everything that opening government fought for, we have to compromise on. We don't have gay marriage. We don't have public transportation on Sabbath. But we are not compromising on the other way around. At least not with the parts that they have the biggest problem with. The ultra-Orthodox can still extradite women if they accuse the rabbi of raping them. They can still do all these things because we are incapable of doing that. We think the status quo is even more terrible than what opening opposition and closing opposition support. No thank you. We've heard several arguments from opening and closing on this issue. So the major one was this idea of minorities inside minorities, people that don't feel at home in different places and so on, which the main logic said, it is terrible to be stuck in a place where you disagree with a religious minority. We agree. We think this is a weird logic on side opposition, because today is the status quo for everyone in Israel, or the vast majority, except someone who's exactly in the middle and thinks it's great that there's no public transportation Sabbath, but that gay people can't get married. So we hate it for less people, only those small enclaves inside Bnei Brak, which are secular. That's great. But B, we make it easier to escape those situations because you have to take a bus to another city. Closing opposition is right that it's not fun to take a bus you do have a house, it's not fun economically, but we're making it easier. Now you have to leave the country if you want your religious freedom. That is a bizarre line of logic. No thank you. Moving on. So what did Dan tell you? Dan told you that not everything that we put under the emphasis, under the name religious rights, is really the human right called religious rights. There are more important religious rights and there are less important religious rights. Why do we even have them? Why do we have religious rights? We have them because we believe, as Dan explained to you, no thank you, that it is incredibly crucial to a person. It is incredibly crucial that he does not go to hell. It is incredibly crucial to him that his kids have the right values. These are the things that people prioritize to be the most important things in their lives. Not every religious freedom is like that. We think that having people in Bat Yam, even though I live in Eilat, behaving the same way, we agree people want that. We do not think that is a human right. And we know that for two reasons. One is because it is not. Their eternal health does not depend on that, according to all religions, including Judaism. And secondly, because we see that that is how people vote with their feet. When you ask religious people if what they want is that everyone should do that, they say yes. But if you ask the ultra-Orthodox, where do you want to live? Many of them live in New York. Many of them, no thank you, would not forgo the right to have their own religious freedoms, but a lot of them forgo the right to have neighbors, or to have far-away neighbors at least, who do. So we don't think that is important right. We think that that you should always prioritize that we should only respect religious rights on a local level. We should only respect the people's ability to have a community that enables them to be religious, but not to force them on other people. We don't think there's a real balance. We think we win the balance of rights here, not that there's real balance.
Sella, the status quo is not a liberal utopia, but your model allows for a regression of the rights already achieved for gay Haredim. We're willing to fight for them. Why are you willing to sacrifice them?
We're not willing to sacrifice them. We think you are sacrificing them. We don't think that Haredi gay people have rights. We think what you're doing is compromising on things outside of Haredi enclaves, and you're not getting what you want inside Haredi enclaves. We think that's pretty obvious. Who should decide? Very, very quickly. Just note that opposition said tellingly, you can believe whatever you want, but rules have to be something specific. We don't think that's true. We think the rules don't have to be something specific. We think you can have them on a local level. They have an underlying false premise that we do have. This clash, not only do we win this clash, it is an unnecessary clash. You are creating clashes between rights that we don't think exist. We think it is okay to have different rules for different people. Moving on to how it affects the discourse. We've heard a lot about segregation solved. We don't think that segregation occurs. One as Dan told you, Haredi Leumi, or as opening opposition called it, mustard people, do this. Kibbutzim is another example. We have currently 5 different religious streams of education, and we don't have problem with saying 25. But lastly, I just want to say, not all discourse is positive discourse. If your discourse is hate, if your discourse is that you constantly feel people are trying to pressure you from both sides of the religious disagreement, we think that makes people more separate, more angry, creates more segregation.